So we'll start VPC quiz. Some quiz questions. So the first is, which of the below statement is true for any VPC security group by default when it is created? So all inbound traffic will be explicitly denied. All inbound traffic is allowed by default. All outbound traffic is allowed by default, or traffic to the internet gateway is allowed by default.
Option 3.
All outbound traffic is allowed by default. You are right. So in any default VPC, so this is the true that all outbound traffic is allowed by default. For the inbound traffic, all inbound traffic is allowed for that security group itself. So in the target, we have provided in that security group. That means under that security group, every instance can communicate each other. That is the inbound rule. Next is, which of the below statements is true for a default security group in default VPC by default when it is created? Choose two.
Option 1 and 3.
So it will have all outbound traffic allowed by, yeah, it's fine. Yes, you are right. So what we discussed in the previous one, so it will have an inbound rule that allows all traffic source from the security group itself, non same security group. That means all instances under that security group can communicate each other. A user has created a VPC with public and private subnet. The VPC has a CIDR range is 20.00 by 16. The private subnet uses this. Which of the below mentioned entries are required in the main route table to allow the instances in VPC to communicate with each other? 1 minute. Yes. So basically, your instances in that VPC will going to communicate each other. So which rule will be provided in the route table?
So option 4.
Yes, option 4 is the right answer. So we need to add this local IP address and target to local.
Look.
So next is a user has created a VPC with CIDR range this 10.0.0.0 by /24. The user has created a public subnet with CIDR 10.0.0.0/25. The user is trying to create a private subnet with the CIDR range 10.0.0.120 by 25. Which of the below mentioned statement is true in this scenario? So, please read this, the options.
I think it's wrong side range. Option 4.
See, our CIDR range is 10.0.0.0 by 24. That means for that VPC, we can allow 256 IP addresses, and fast public IP has taken oblique 25. That means it has taken 2 to the power 7, like 128 IP addresses. So the user is trying to create the private subnet using this. So will it possible or not?
Private subnet. I think it's possible.
Yeah, this is possible. It will allow user to create private subnet with CIDR range this
Oh.
10.0.0.125 because in the fast CIDR it has taken 128 addresses, and the second CIDR block will take 128 addresses. So that will be 256. You have created a VPC with CIDR and private range. Yeah. The VPC has two subnets. One is 10.0.0.0 by 25, and the private subnet is 10.0.0.120 by 25. How to increase the CIDR range your VPC block? So I'm having only by 24 means 256 IP addresses, and I want to increase the CIDR range of my VPC CIDR block. So how I can increase? The option one, change the CIDR range to by 28 subnets. Then you will have more room to grow the VPC CIDR. Then you can always change a VPC original CIDR block as needed. You can add additional VPC CIDR blocks but cannot change the existing one. Next is delete all the subnet first, then freshly create or modify the size of the VPC.
I think option C, but I'm not sure.
Option C. You can. Okay, Ankita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So, uh, as as so, what will be your option?
I don't know, sir.
No. Okay. Option C is right one. So you can add additional VPC CIDR block. So suppose in a VPC we have already one CIDR block, but we cannot expand that. Right. Suppose we have taken 10.0.0.0 by 24, and we cannot take that range, and we can add another IP range for that, but we cannot extend that. So 10.0.0.024 cannot be 10.0.0.0 by 20 or 16. That IP range will not change, but instead we can add another IP range to the VPC CIDR. A company wants to implement their website in a virtual private cloud. The web tier will use an auto scaling group across multiple AG. The database will be multiple AG RDS MySQL and should not be publicly accessible. See, here the question is, you are having one website, one web service, and that should be in availability zones, multiple availability zones, and the database will use multi-AG RDS. So RDS also need to multi-AG and should not be publicly accessible. That means your MySQL will be in private subnet. So the question is, what is the minimum required number of subnets to achieve this?
What do you mean by VPC subnets?
Yes. The question is, how many subnets required to achieve the above question or above design?
Multi-AZ RDS MySQL means?
Multi-AG RDS MySQL means RDS means relational database system. MySQL is a RDS company like your Oracle or your MySQL server. This is a database server, you can say. And the database server should be in private. It is like, it should not be publicly accessible means it should be private. Your database should not be accessed by any other, but instead your web tier will access your database servers. And
Then it's one, option one.
how?
No, actually, I'm not sure because the database will use multi availability zone.
Yes.
Uh,
Question is, your web tier will be use multiple availability zone and your database server also use multiple availability zone. Let me explain.
yes, but there is no.
Question is, one VPC is there and your web service, the web instance, right? Your web instance, there will be web instance will be use multiple AZ. AZ means one availability zone. So
Mm,
your web service will use multiple availability zone. Minimum two, you can say. Multiple means minimum two, maximum maybe more. So one availability zone is equal to one subnet. So subnet will not cover multiple availability zone, right? For one AG, one subnet, and two zone means two subnet minimum for your, this is your, this is your, you can say your, this is your web service instances. This is your web service, you can say WS, right? And this should be public. You're saying this is a public, right? And again is trying to tell, I also need one private RDS, private database. So for the private database you need minimum two. Sorry, for your private database you need minimum two. RDS here, one multi-AZ. Multi-AZ. We will discuss in multi-AZ in the database section. Multi-AZ private subnet. Right. So here one subnet, here one subnet, here one subnet, here one subnet. So minimum 4 subnet required. Is it clear?
Sorry, can you please repeat again?
So minimum 4 subnet required, because see, for the public section you need 2 AZ. So 1 AZ means 1 subnet. So subnet will not go beyond the 1 AZ. But I want to launch my instances in 2 AZ, 2 availability zone. That means I need 2 subnet. For my web service I need 2 subnets. And for my RDS also I need multi-AZ, multi-availability zone. So 1 availability zone is equal to 1 subnet minimum. So subnet will not go beyond your availability zone. Right. So for the RDS I need 2 subnet, and for my web service I need 2 subnets. So total minimum 4 subnets required.
Can I see the question again?
Okay. Yeah, please.
Okay, publicly accessible.
The next is you have created an EC2 instance in a subnet within a VPC. You want to delete the subnet and change it with a bigger CIDR block. What will happen in the scenario? So you can delete the subnet and make the EC2 instance as a part of the default subnet, or you cannot delete the subnet until the instances are terminated. You can delete the subnet as well as terminate the instance at the same time. You cannot delete subnets. You have to delete the VPC instead. So what will be the best answer or the correct answer?
I think option 3.
You can delete the subnet as well as terminate the instances at the same time. No. You can delete the subnet until the instances is terminated. So you have to first terminate your instances, and after that you can delete. You can try this. You can create one EC2 instance and try to delete your subnet, and you will see it will not allow you to delete the subnet. One of your company's AWS developers need to build a test environment. He has created a VPC with CIDR 10.0.0.0 by 24. Within that VPC, he created a public subnet of CIDR 10.0.0.0 by 25 and a private subnet 10.0.0.128 by 25. He then launched one instance in the private subnet. See, and one instance in the public subnet. So he he launched 2 instances, one in private, one in public. Which of the below cannot be an IP address assigned to either instances? So what will which is the below IPs? You can say one invalid IP.
In option 1.
Yes. Can you tell me the reason why option 1?
Because it is slash 25 is there, so
Class 25 is there. So what is the relation between this 25? Because I am
yes,
having also this cider range 10.0.0.0 by 25.
the 25 places are fixed.
No, sorry, I didn't get you.
So he created a public subnet of CIDR 10.0.0.0 slash 25. So
Yes.
that means 25 places are fixed.
25 places are fixed.
Yeah,
No.
that means
2 to the power 7 is equal to 128 places are fixed.
mm,
Why this IP is not invalid? Your answer is correct, but I'm saying why this is not invalid.
why
Your answer is definitely correct, but I want to know the reason why this is.
you said bits, like bits, right? 8 bits in one place, right?
No. Okay, let me explain. 10.0.0.0 by 25 is one range. 10.0.0.0 128 by 25. This is another range, right? So 25 means 32 minus 25 is equal to 7. This range will be 10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.0 right?
Yes.
So in this range it's coming your 10.0.0.0, this is coming.
Mm.
So this is part of the cider range. This
Mm.
IP is part of the cider range, but
Mm.
why this is invalid? This is the question.
They are overlapping, right? Can I see the question again?
Yes. And this range is coming in the fast cider, and this also coming under the fast cider 10.0.0.65, and this also coming 10.0.0.111, and the second one is coming in the second cider range, but the first 1 3 4 is coming under this cider, right? So why
No,
this is invalid?
the what you have explained is slash 25, right there.
Yes.
Can you go to the other page?
Yes.
So 10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.127.
Yes.
So one IP address is taken there, right? Slash 25 means.
One IP, no, total IP is 28, 128. This is total IP is how much? IP is equal to 128.
28.
Because 0 is there.
0 is
0.
there.
So 127 plus 1 is equal to 128.
No, you said something. Four places are fixed. What I have remembered is that's why.
Yes. No, yes, you are right. So if
Slash.
you create, let me explain. If you create one subnet in VPC, so you are providing one IP range, right? And 5 IP addresses is reserved by IP address is reserved by AWS.
Is it fixed? 5 IP address will be reserved by AWS.
Yes. And which those IP addresses? First 4 and last one. This is fixed. So
Mm-hmm.
if I, yeah, okay, let me show you. We already discussed that. Yeah, please read this.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and due to this, you will not get the 10.0.1. 10.0.0.1. This is reserved for VPC router, you can say. A user has created a VPC with a subnet and a security group, right? The user has launched an instance in that subnet and attached to a public IP. The user is still unable to connect to the instance. The internet gateway has also been created. What can be the reason for the error? So everything is set, but you are not going to connect your EC2 instance. So some connection problem. So from below options, which will be the correct answer? So there may be many reasons for the failure, but we are having these 4 options. So what will be the correct answer?
I'm not sure.
Okay. The here is okay. We'll just see the options. The internet gateway is not configured with the route table. So it's telling that okay, you have created the internet gateway and you have not configured with the route table. The private IP is not present. This is one invalid option because the private IP is always present. The next is the outbound traffic on the security group is disabled. See, the security group is stateful. So if inbound is allowed, then outbound is allowed automatically. This is also one invalid point. The next is the internet gateway is not configured with the security group. Internet gateway never configured with the security group. This is also one invalid statement. So the last 3 is invalid. So option is left with this one. The internet gateway is created. Okay, it's created but not configured the route table. So for that you have to add one rule in the route table. Like we have just created like the IP range will be 000 and your target will be your internet gateway. The option 1 is the correct answer. Is clear or any questions here?
Explain again.
So this last three, the 2.2, 0.3, 0.4 is invalid. Any doubt on this? Why this is invalid? I will explain that point. So do you understand this 0.2, 0.3 and 0.4? Option 3, option 2, option 4.
You can explain the option 1.
Option 1, okay. The internet gateway is not configured. Actually, you have created the internet gateway, but you have not configured the internet gateway in the route table. So I'll show you in the VPC. Okay, in the route table, yeah. Maybe you can take our custom route table and here edit rule. See, in the route table, he is telling, the option is telling the internet gateway is not configured with the route table, right? So here we have configured. This is the internet gateway and this is the destination IP is this. If you remove this, your internet gateway will not work. If I remove this, if I create one EC2 instance, then I will not able to connect because the internet gateway is not present in the route table. To do that, I need to add this and internet gateway. So if I do this, then I can connect to my EC2 instance. I think is it clear now? Right, Mithali?
Yes, we can go next.
User has created a VPC with two subnets, one public and one private. The user is planning to run the patch update for the instances in the private subnet. How can the instances in the private subnet connect to the internet? Use the internet gateway with the private IP or allow outbound traffic in the security group for port 80 to allow internet updates, or the private subnet can never connect to the internet, or use a NAT with a elastic IP. NAT means here you can use NAT gateway or you can use NAT instance.
I think option 4.
Yes, option 4. So you have to use either one NAT instance or NAT gateway to get a internet connection to your private EC2 instance. A user has created a VPC with CIDR 10.0.0.0 by 16. The user has created one subnet with CIDR 10.0.0 by 16 by mistake. So by mistake, it's created one CIDR. The user is trying to create another subnet of the CIDR 10.0.0.1 by 24. How can the user create the second subnet?
I'm confused.
Hello?
I'm confused with this.
Confused. Okay, the question is one VPC is created and the range is 10.0.0 by 16. This is the range. And now the user has created the whole range with a one subnet. And again, he is trying to create another subnet with a another IP range, right? So what will happen? Whether you will going to create or not? This is the question. And this is the options. Confusion in which point?
Can you repeat the question?
Question is one VPC is created with this range, the 10.0.0. Okay, let me show you with the example.
The user is trying to create another. So it's option 3.
Yes, option 3. It is not possible to create the second subnet as one subnet with the same CIDR as the VPC has been created. So you cannot create the second range. So this is a long question. You have problem with connecting via RDP into a Microsoft Windows EC2 instance you launched in your VPC in a public subnet. You have verified that the instance has a public IP address and that VPC has an internet gateway attached, which is properly refers to a target in the public subnet's route table. See, your route table is okay, your internet gateway okay, you are having one public IP and you have launched one Windows instance. While checking the instance assigned security group and the subnet NACL, you notice that they both allow inbound traffic and deny all outbound traffic. This is one tricky question. Your security group and your NACL, they allow inbound traffic but deny all outbound traffic. What need to be changed such that you can access your RDP instance? Question is clear?
It's a long question.
Yeah, but very important. Now, question is simple that you have only one EC2 instance and that is in public IP and also internet gateway okay, your router okay, everything is okay. But in the red line, I mentioned they both allow all inbound traffic and deny all outbound traffic. That means your NACL and security group having only these rules. So the question is, why I am not going to access my instance?
Because the instance security group needs to allow outbound traffic.
No.
Both security group and NACL need to allow outbound traffic. That way.
See, security group is stateful and NACL is stateless. That means if any traffic comes to your instance, it will go automatically. No one will block. That is stateful. This is the property of security group. If inbound traffic is allowed, no need to do with your outbound traffic. It will go automatically. But in case of NACL, this is a different scenario. The NACL is stateless. That means if any inbound traffic comes, for the outbound traffic, it also checks. But here we deny all outbound traffic for the NACL. So we need to only change the NACL. Right? Or any problem?
No.
What security group configuration rule is required for your Bastion host in a VPC in order to allow SSH inbound access to a Linux Bastion from your IP? So this is my IP and I need SSH communication to my Western host. So what will be my security rule?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Okay, let me explain. So this is IP of, okay, this is my IP. I am a customer or I am a user, and my IP is 192.168.32.5, and I am going to access my Western host. And what will be the security rule for my Western host? So my Western host should allow this traffic, this rule, right? And here is some options. Okay, allow port SSS, UDP. So port 22, you cannot say UDP. And the next is SSS port TCP. Yeah, it's fine. But the source is 192.168.32.5 by 31. By 31 means, and this is outbound. See, I need inbound to enter. So you can ignore this outbound, two outbound. This two outbound can be ignored. Okay, anyway, can tell me what do you mean by this 31 and 30? 192, 192.168.32.5. 32.5
That means
means
uh, 4 IP addresses.
not 4, 2.
Yes.
31.
Yeah, in this case, 2.
That means this one,
It is 2.
right? These
4.
two IP addresses. This means 31 means these two IP addresses are allowed for outbound.
Mm,
But I am going for inbound because my Bastion host should have inbound traffic so that I can access.
mm,
Right. And the last one is 192.168.32.5 by 32. 32 means the same IP address. 2 to the
yes.
power 0 means same IP address. So
Yes.
this IP address should be allowed in my inbound so that I can access. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Is more. So can we discuss these two questions?
Yeah, sure.
Tell me. A user has a set up a VPC with CIDR this 10.0.0.0 by 16. The VPC has a private subnet like 10.0.1.0 by 24 and a public subnet 10.0.0 by 24. The user's data center has a CIDR of 10.0.54.0 by 24 and 10.1.0.0 by 24. If the private subnet wants to communicate with the data center, what will be happen? See, here the scenario is you are having one VPC and have some CIDR range, some subnets. And now in the other side, you are having one own data center and the data center having these IP subnets. So your data center want to communicate to the VPC using some VPN connection that we discussed. So using that VPN connection, it trying to access. So the question is, can the data center access to the VPC? And we are having these options like this IP for data center and this IP for your data center and this IP for your VPC. So can I access?
Can you please explain?
Can I explain more?
Yes.
So here is control N. This is your AWS. And this is your own data center. Maybe your own company. Maybe you can say this my company name is Flipkart.com. This is a Flipkart.com's data center, and this is your AWS data center, right? And we are having subnet, one subnet here and one subnet here. Here also two subnets, right? And the question is, the CIDR range is, the VPC CIDR range is this. This is the CIDR range of your VPC. N or 20. Right. And okay, dot 16. Okay, yeah, it's fine. And your subnet having dot 0.0 24 24 and 1 by 24, right? And this is 10.0.0 dot 0 by 24, right? And here your IP range is 10.0 10.1.0. One is 10.0.1. 10.0.1.0 by 24. And here is another IP is, sorry, this is wrong, 10.54. Dot 0 by 24, and this is the wrong one. You can say this is the wrong one. 10.0.1 0.1 mistake. 10.1, sorry, 10.1 10.1.0.0 by 24. So the question is, can this subnet communicate to these subnets? That means suppose some instance is there and some instance is there, some instance is there and some instance is there, right? And we have a VPN connection. We have a VPN connection. VPN connection, and here is your VPG Here is your VPG and here your customer gateway. And here your CG. So can we access, or what will be the problem? Okay, question is clear or any doubt?
Question is clear.
Okay. So can we communicate?
I think we can communicate.
Yeah, we can communicate. We can communicate. Actually, this, see, our IP range is, our VPC IP range is 10.0.0.0, right? So what will be the range? 10.0.0.0 by 16. Actually, this means you should understand this. The range will 10.0.0.02. Can you tell me what is the range? 10.0.
250. Oh, sorry, 255.255.
This is your VPC range, right?
Hmm.
But your communication will be in the in your VPC side. So here is our this IP. This IP will be overlap, but your subnet is having this IP is not in your subnet, but you will communicate using your VPC. So your this IP will not able to communicate because this comes under your IP range of your VPC. But this is not comes. This subnet does not come. So this subnet having 10.1.0.0, right?
10.1. Okay. Yes.
10.1.0.0. This subnet can communicate, but this will not communicate as this IP comes under your VPC range. So this is the last question. Which two components provide connectivity with external networks when attached to a Amazon VPC? Which two components provided connectivity with your external network? So question is, which component going to connect your EC2 instance to the external network? Means internet, you can say internet or other network, other data center.
NAT gateway and internet gateway.
No,
I
NAT
think
gateway, internet gateway and virtual private gateway. See, NAT gateway will use internet gateway to route your traffic to outside. NAT gateway will be in between your private subnets instance and your internet gateway. Your private subnet instance will communicate to NAT, and from the NAT it will go to internet gateway, and from the internet gateway it will go to outside. Internet gateway is the right option, and next is your virtual private gateway, VGW. And you, for the VPN connection, this network you can use virtual private gateway, and this is for internet, and this is for your private communication, VPN communication, right? It's completed. Next.